I know a lot of people that are like, oh, I'm curious about journalism because of Johnny.
Yeah.
Like you're the poster child for that, I think, of doing it yourself, right? And sharing your opinions where appropriate and doing a really good job.
Yeah.
What's your advice to someone who wants to do that?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah. Yeah.
obviously taking into consideration.
Yeah, which is why I'm so rubbish at advice because I have this deep theory of like, oh my god, how it all worked out. I do have some advice though. The reality is like there are some objective things that I did along the way and things that I've learned along the way that to me represent like the best chance of preparation for this type of work. Setting your expectations for endurance. If you go into any craft without an expectation, a really clear, grounded expectation that there's going to be a lot of not fun times as you learn it and as you get better at it and as you make things and they're really bad, then you are already writing your death certificate for that craft. Like you're already saying goodbye to it. You have to go in understanding that it is going to be years of dissatisfaction. It's going to be years of wondering if it ever gets better, if your work ever gets better, why doesn't it look like this? And that those years are the point of the whole thing. You have to get so much work out of your system. And every piece of work that you do is adding to that quota of the amount of bad work you have to get out of your system. And if you don't do that bad work, you'll never get better. And that is like a law of nature to me. That is not even like that's not advice. That is me describing a law of nature of getting better at your craft and practicing something. So if you want to get into journalism, then just do a lot of work, write a lot of stuff. And if you're lucky, you find a place that will incentivize you in a market to write a lot of stuff, even if it's not for the thing that you want to do. For me, that was like all the bullshit jobs I took before Vox were like, I was just like animating things, but I was animating things for 40 hours a week and I was getting better because I was animating things for 40 hours a week. So that endurance is to me the most important component of any work, that obsession. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. And I think every time you embark on a new endeavor, it's like prepare yourself for humble pie
Yeah.
time again, which is
Yeah.
something I'm learning repeatedly.
Yes.
I love exploring new things,
Yeah.
but every single time it is a bit of a slap in the face.
Yes.
Where
Yep.
it's like, whoa,
Yeah.
you think you're like all that?
Yes. Yep.
I'm sorry to say,
Actually,
you suck at this.
yes.
You know?
Yep. Yep. And eventually you learn to embrace that. And eventually you see the dynamics of like, oh, I'm going to start at zero and I'll get better with time, whatever. But when you're first starting out and you're starry eyed and you're excited
Yeah.
and you hit that first year and your excitement dries up and you're just like, why am I doing this? I believe that the well of expectation, like the well of like motivation that gets you through those times is the cultivation of expectations you did beforehand.
Yeah.
You prepared yourself that this was going to be hard.
Yeah.
So that is my big thing. And
Yeah.
then I guess,
And you do, in some ways, you have to ignore short-term feedback, right? The world, until it's working, the
Yeah.
world will make it look like it's not working.
yep,
Right?
absolutely. And
Not a couple years ago, your channel was like a tenth of the size,
yeah, that's true.
and you were doing great already. But like, who knew it was gonna get to this point?
Yeah,
Right.
it's ignoring. Here's what's tricky, and this is what I'm getting hung up on. It's ignoring short-term feedback, but also absorbing short-term feedback in the sense that this is actually okay. Here's the real zinger. This is a new thought that is newly packaged, straight out of the packaging facility that I am going to present here.
This is classic Johnny.
This is
right
just
now.
it's just been the bow has just been whoop, like put on the top of this package.
It's
and here it is.
unboxing an Apple product.
Yes, we're now unboxing it for the first time, so I don't know how it's going to come out. It's actually not like controversial, but it's like this is a big thing I have. Wait, I think I just lost it. Hold on.
You
This is
hugged it
fresh.
up
This
so
is
much.
fresh shit, dude. This is a fresh like big theory.
Okay, wait. What were we even
What were you just saying? No, what were you just saying? What were you literally just saying? You're saying
I don't know. I think I lost it.
it
Too.
was humble pie. It was you're gonna learn something.
Oh,
new.
ignoring short-term
yes,
feedback,
yes.
but taking
Got
short-term
it. Fresh
feedback.
fresh out of the oven. Here it is. If you do anything creative, there is an impulse, especially if you're an artsy person and you're kind of like, I want to make great art and I want to make things that are beautiful. There will be an impulse to want to defend your art, to make it beautiful and artistic. And there will be a natural resentment towards the audience that doesn't get it. Who's like, and you're like, oh, like they just don't get it. Like I'm making beautiful things and they just don't get it. My big thing is you're wrong. You're absolutely wrong. Your audience is your audience. They are the kingpins in all of this. They are the people who should rule what you are doing. If you have art that doesn't have an audience, then like you just have art and you can have it for you and that's great.
Right.
If we're talking about a professional context where you're trying to participate in an economy, you're trying to present something to the world that is artistic, then you by default are serving an audience. If you're trying to monetize your work, then you have to bow to what people want. I just hear so much like people be like, I make films, I'm really into this, but like the audience just like doesn't appreciate good like cinema anymore. And I'm like, cool. Like go make cool cinema for yourself. But if you're trying to participate in a market,
Right.
you have to meet that demand.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm a big fan of markets, where I'm like, people want something, serve that audience, find value for people, and think of your work as value. Anyway, that's my fresh out of the press, not well packaged yet. I'm still working on it.
There's tweaks to this because I think it takes time. There's a lot of momentum on the internet. Like if you have the right core audience for something, that core audience can help you reach way more people if they're really pumped.
That
and
was
excited.
your journey, dude.
That was my journey. And when you change formats, it can take time for that core audience to develop again. And so that's where I do think there's a bit of a delay sometimes. You know, my journey, it's funny. Okay, so over the course of those first 4 years that I ran my channel, I had like 2 videos sort of do well, but they were in French. So I had the wrong core audience
This
because
is the one you sent me in 2017.
something like, yes, yeah, I sent you that. Wow, good memory.
Yeah, I remember a lot of things.
Because I was like, hey, I can speak French and Spanish.
Yes.
And basically I had the wrong core audience. And so I was later down the road, a couple years later, I was trying to really get the channel going, making only English content because I felt more comfortable expressing myself in abstract terms and emotions and whatnot in English. So I had the wrong core audience, and I was getting all the feedback that my videos sucked, you know, until it broke the dam.
Interesting.
And then the core audience came, and then it blew up.
See that you're right,
And there was a delay there.
You're right that absolutely like, and I guess like what I don't want my like hot take to represent is like, don't endure in something that you feel intuitive about, that you're like, no, I think this is actually going to hit. It's this sort of artistic resentment towards the masses who don't get what you're doing that to me is like the wrong-headed way to think about it. If you're like, no, I'm on to something, I just need to wait until it hits the right audience, but I'm thinking about an audience. Like the work that we do, if we are communicating to an audience, the audience is king. They are all that matters. We are not. Our artistic vision and whatever, like, it only works if it resonates with large amounts of people. And again, unless you're doing something for your friends and family or for yourself, go nuts, indulge, whatever. But like, if you are trying to appeal to a mass audience, you have to be thinking of them at all times.
I think you saying, "Oh, the world is the problem," is a thinly veiled way of saying I'm a victim.
Yeah.
In many ways.
Yeah.
And I think the caveat, as you said, it's really important that it's not lost in the discussion, is if you're clear that it's artsy and you're doing it how you want and you don't care, like you can let go of how it's received in the world, then that's fine. It's a separate thing. But I get that, like, yeah.
I think that oftentimes that kind of mentality is a protection mechanism, because putting stuff out to an audience and caring what they think, caring on, even like what we talked about earlier about like you shouldn't care too much, like you shouldn't let it into your soul. But if you are someone who is out there trying to put stuff out to a larger audience and grow an audience, then you have to care what they think. That is literally what you are doing.
Yeah.
And I think that it's easy to say like, no, I just don't care. Like, I'm just going to do my thing. And I think a lot of the wrong-headed advice that I roll my eyes at, that's actually like what most people say. So now this is the real. Now we're getting to the real hot take. At the core of my package is
More controversial.
just stick to your guns. Keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Be yourself, and eventually it'll catch on.
Yeah.
Like this, I hear this all the time.
Yeah.
Like if you feel it in your gut, keep doing it. And it's like, no.
That's not helpful advice.
Now, what they're saying, and there's good intentions around this, is like, don't sell your soul and just go with the whims of what's like the thing of the day, the trend of the day. I absolutely hear it in that way. But if it gets misconstrued as like, I have this idea, I'm going to stick to it, and I'm not going to pivot it based on like what I actually learn about what audiences want, then you're setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah.
So that is another little bit of advice. Man, I guess I do have more advice than I thought I did.